How are
Marnie.
you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, thanks for taking the time to do this amongst your busy schedule.
That's fine, of course.
Yeah,
Anything to help the cause, and raising awareness.
yeah, I really appreciate that. And that's something, I mean, we had a lot of people reach out to say, can you do a follow-up with Marnie? Because we don't want to,
Yeah,
we want to know what's happened with her story. So it's great that you've been able to make time for this.
definitely. No, I do get a lot of questions as well, so it'll be nice to answer them all like this.
Yeah, so are you ready to just jump into some questions then?
Let's let's just jump into it.
All
Yeah.
right, awesome. Well, you're quite the female health advocate, and you've shared your story on our channel and on a bunch of other media channels. But for people that aren't familiar with your story, can you just give us a recap of how your chronic UTI experience started?
Yes. So basically, I always suffered with recurring UTIs through my 20s and my teens, and then when I think I was about then it really kind of just became severely chronic when I gave birth to my first child.
Hmm.
Um and that was like constant 24 hours a day, agonizing pain, no relief. And that all just started after the labour of my first little
Hmm.
boy. So I still to this day don't know exactly like what happened during that labour or what made it go from recurrent to chronic. It's just still so many unanswered questions. I guess it's just all theory, really.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, I guess. And until you've experienced it, you really don't know what it's like. But before it became chronic, did you have triggers that would bring on the symptoms, like sex or exercise or anything like that?
Yeah, so when it was recurrent, it used to be if I drank alcohol, if I had a heavy night
Hmm.
out, if I ate a lot of like unhealthy food. Sometimes when I was hungover, I'd like binge eat like loads of junk and I'd always get a UTI the next day, and sex as well.
Yeah.
But sex only with certain partners. I remember like I was with one person and it was just constant. Every time I slept with them, it would just always trigger a UTI. But then
Hmm.
my partner after that one, that wasn't the case. So yeah, it was just hit and miss which one it was. But that used to be a major trigger for me too.
Yeah, a lot of people say that they find it happens just with one particular partner, which is quite
Yeah,
interesting. But that's like you said, we don't have enough information yet
it's
to know.
crazy. It doesn't make sense. Like obviously, I'm with my partner now. I've been with him for 5 years, and he's never been a trigger. My
Hmm.
partner before that was. So I just don't
Yeah.
really understand that. It's a minefield.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of people say that having chronic UTI, it really can impact your mental health and can be difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Did you find that as well?
Yes, my mental health severely struggled. Like at one point I was suicidal because I was just I couldn't see any light. There was no hope. I genuinely believed that I was going to spend the rest of my life the way I was. I used to sit and Google, and I used to get like the answers that I didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
Um, I used to go on support groups and I'd read about cases of women who've been like that for 20 odd years plus. And it used to just really depress us. I'd get myself into such a dark place mentally and I just couldn't climb my way back out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of us have been there too. It's really hard when you don't see those success stories out there to
Yeah.
really feel like there is hope. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things I think your followers appreciate about you is that you are so honest about your health journey. But why did you
Yeah.
decide to share your experience with chronic UTI in the first place?
I think just because of that reason, I feel like I was in such a dark place and I feel like to actually feel like you didn't want to be here anymore, which is where I was at, I
Hmm.
think that is so sad when I look at myself now and I'm just living my life and I
Hmm.
think like if I'd known that there was still hope then, that would have made the world of difference to me. So if I can do that for just one person, it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. It's so nice to see you feeling better as well. I think you're much better than the last time we spoke. And
Definitely.
recently you traveled to Turkey to have bladder fulguration, but before you considered that, what other types of treatment did you try?
I tried everything. First of all, I tried every doctor. I mean, I was in a very fortunate position where like I was making like really good money with my job, with
Hmm.
TV. I was able to kind of fund the best doctors, the best medication, the best different holistic therapies. I tried everything from like Chinese herbs to
Hmm.
acupuncture, all the natural medications. I tried every nature famous naturopath that I could find, like every famous doctor that had like the best. experience and history, and I had every blood test known, and honestly, it was literally just nothing worked,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing. I tried
Yeah.
every diet as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows that having the money to pursue this doesn't often make a difference. But what made you decide to do the fulguration?
It was literally like I was so terrified to do the fulguration. When I went and had it done, I was literally the first one. Like, I've noticed it's spiraled since I
Mm-hmm.
went, like spiraled, and that's because I like filmed it and stuff. But I literally was the first person to go to him, apart from one girl that I could find who spoke English,
Mm-hmm.
and she was the only person that I had to go off. I basically reached out. The doctor himself actually gave me her number, and he said, "Well, this is a patient of mine. She speaks a little bit of English. If you want to speak to her and ask
Mm-hmm.
her how her operation went." And it was so daunting to have like a kind of unheard of surgery on such a very delicate part of my body
Yeah.
that was already so sore and sensitive. But for me, it was like, I either do that or I'm going to die. That was like that was where I was at. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was taking so many pain medications every single day. I was in such a bad place mentally. I thought, like, if I don't try everything, like, this is going to kill me. Like, one way or another, I don't think I'm going to get out of this alive. Like, that is how bad it got.
Yeah, that's understandable. And can you describe the procedure for people that aren't familiar with bladder fulguration?
So basically, it's a laser that burns off multiple layers of the bladder wall at like 700 degrees, to just so that new layers of the skin and tissue can grow in replace of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's technically just burning off all of the infection that is present in the bladder.
And for people that are interested in more information, we have a video about fulguration with a urologist so they can learn more. But how did you find the doctor that you ended up working with?
So obviously I was very skeptical because you've heard horror stories about Turkey, and genuinely the reason I chose Dr. Savink in Turkey was because out of anyone regarding fulguration, he was the one who I found had the most experience. And for me, that was really important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't say he's a professional when it comes to chronic UTI, because he's not. But that to me wasn't important. What was important was he was a professional in this type of surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously I read like risks and stuff, so it was really important to us that it I did not want to make myself worse. That was what I was
Yeah.
scared of. So yeah, I went to him because I thought he'd mastered the technique the most out of any of the surgeon.
Mm-hmm. And how did you feel right after the fulguration and then in the months following that?
Right, so straight after, it was very painful. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
I know girls who have gone, who I speak to regularly, and they didn't find that. I think I was just extremely sensitive in that area. Um, I will say one thing though, it was a different type of pain to chronic UTI pain.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately after, it felt almost like the stingy pain that you'd get with this, is it cystoscopy?
Mm-hmm.
Like a cut
Yeah.
type of pain. Um, but it did only last about an hour max. That
Okay.
intense pain, an hour, and I didn't have any pain relief. I didn't take any, which I should have. I've told people since then to always take pain relief with them. But then slowly but surely, it just got better and better, and then the recovery was very up and down. It
Mm-hmm.
was like I'd take 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, and it was a roller coaster of
Mm-hmm.
emotions. I remember after the surgery, so I had it in October 21, and January, not Christmas time, so December, January, which about 3 months post op, I was in a really bad place because I didn't think it had worked.
Mm-hmm.
I was so upset. It was exactly the same. I wasn't worse, but I wasn't better, and I
Yeah.
just was so upset. I thought, I've gone through this for nothing. And then after about 5 to 6 months, I started to see very small improvements.
Mm-hmm.
It was so small that it was hard to see. I kept a journal, and then just slowly but surely, the better days become better weeks, and then the better weeks become better months, and then so on and so on. And then, yeah, it just got so much better that I would say now I'm completely symptom free. It did
Wow.
take, I would say it was literally, I would say from 2 years after the fulguration, I would say I was completely symptom free.
Okay. Do you think it took about that amount of time to really feel that way?
Yeah, like in the sense where, I mean, in the sense where I feel completely normal, you know.
Hmm.
I, after I would say after 1 year, I felt great, but it was like I'd still have like the odd flare, and like I'd still have a bit of sensitivity if I had sex or if I drank, but it
Hmm.
didn't affect my life and it didn't get me down like it once did. But I would say 2 years after, I'm
Okay.
like living a normal life in terms of sex, drinking coffee, drinking
Hmm.
alcohol, all of that.
I guess that takes a bit of patience. Did you have to take antibiotics over the course of that 2 years?
So the only time I took antibiotics was I took antibiotics after the surgery itself for 2 weeks. And then in the 2 years of recovery, I would say I've had a few flares, but I have
Hmm.
had pregnancy within that two
I
years.
was going to ask about that. How was
Crazy.
this one compared to the last one?
Well, it's crazy because I used to get myself very upset thinking I wasn't going to be able to have kids again
Hmm.
after the birth of my first child because I thought there's no way I could do it. And I felt pregnant. It would have been 1 year after the fulguration. I
Hmm.
felt pregnant in the September. So it was literally like a year after the fulguration. And at that point, like I said, I was doing really well. I wouldn't say I was 100% because I was still having the odd flare. But when I felt pregnant, I thought, you know what it is, I'm going to do it. I really want another baby, and I'm just going to try and be strong and get through it. The pregnancy itself was fine. I did flare at the very beginning. You know,
Hmm.
the first 12 weeks was a bit hit and miss because the hormones are just crazy.
Yeah.
And we all know hormones affect the trigone and the bladder. After the 12 weeks, I was absolutely fine until the very end of the
Hmm.
pregnancy. Flared again. I took a course of antibiotics for that, and then that was it. I was great. I mean, I actually went in and had a C-section as well, which was also extremely daunting. Like,
Hmm.
have my bladder moved, you know, while the
Yeah.
delivered the baby. It was
Yeah.
so scary to us, and having the catheter, but I was absolutely fine. It's actually unbelievable to think that I got through a pregnancy and a C-section, like given the history that I've had with my
Hmm.
bladder. It's
Yeah, it's
unbelievable. Like
amazing.
I still think about it till this day. I'm like, how did I get through that? Like having gone what I've gone through, like it's crazy.
Did you know in advance that you were going to have the C-section so you had time to mentally prepare for that?
Well, the thing is, my chronic UTI really did flare after the first natural birth. So
Hmm.
in my mind, I just figured the C-section was still scary, but
Yeah.
definitely it's less risky, I think, because it's more organized, you know. And I think if a natural birth goes well, then that's definitely the best option, but it isn't always going to go well. So I was just definitely opting for the C-section more 100% after my first experience.
Hmm. You have so much going on with two kids now and all your work commitments as well. Did you find that chronic UTI really had an impact on the work side of your life?
Yes, it massively did. I mean, it was really hard as well because for my job I had to kind of be a massive big happy personality, and I had to hide my illness, which
Hmm.
in a sense that made it even more hard. I felt like I was hiding a, a double life, you know. I mean, 1 minute I was this happy bubbly person on camera, and then behind closed doors I was suicidal, constantly
Hmm.
just hating life. So it definitely affected my work. It affected my social life. It affected my relationship with my partner. Like me and my partner split up for
Hmm.
weeks because it was just so hard to tolerate. Like it was hard to get through. It affected everything, everything.
I think it's really important to share the story like you have multiple times because people do feel so alone when that's happening and they're not necessarily aware that everyone in this situation feels that way, that it has an
Yeah,
impact on every aspect of life.
everything. I mean, I still feel like I'll carry that with us for the rest of my life. Like
Hmm.
even now, me and my partner will always talk about that time in my life because we still don't know how I got through it. It was at one point I didn't think I was going to, and this is another thing like why I try and spread that message to girls who are suffering. Is like I was honestly rock bottom. Like
Hmm.
it wasn't even a case that like oh I wasn't that bad and my symptoms would come and go. I was rock bottom. My symptoms were 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
10 pain, and like most of the time I was just highly medicated on pain relief. Like without that I couldn't get through. So if I can get to where I'm at now, I know that everyone else can.
Yeah, it's very inspiring to hear stories of success like that. I'm so glad you're feeling better. It is weird to wake up one day and realize that you're not thinking about your bladder. And I
Yeah,
remember that for me too. It was a very strange experience after being
yeah,
through all of it.
yeah. It is. It is. It's a real feeling, and like I still can't believe that I went through all that. And it's one of them things that like no one will truly understand
Hmm.
unless they do it themselves. So that's where I stay in contact with a lot of other sufferers, because I think we just all have that in common, that we kind of understand it and we know what we've gone through, and we can always be there for each other, because it is a massive thing that happened in my life.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most traumatic thing I've ever gone through. And I think like that worry will never go, even though
Hmm.
I've had like therapy and stuff for it. But I just think like slowly but surely the wound does heal, and like I'm able to like do things now without constantly having anxiety. But I think like I will always have that slight
Hmm.
worry, like would that ever happen again? I think I'll always be very cautious, always.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's a bit protective as well, though, to make sure that you are aware in case something changes, but
Yeah.
hopefully you never go backwards.
And I think I'm planning on going over to Dr. Saving to have like a a 3-year checkup on
Hmm.
my, just to see like what it looks like now, because obviously the first time he went in there and looked, it was really badly infected, inflamed. The tissue was really badly damaged,
Hmm.
bleeding, and I just would like to see what it looks like now. I think that'll be very interesting.
It would be interesting, and maybe we can do another update then to
Definitely,
let people know what's going on.
definitely we'll do that 100%.
Yeah, that would be great. So, what have you got going on work-wise at the moment? We can share some links in the video description to what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's definitely a lot in the pipeline. I mean, I've still got a 6-month-old baby that doesn't sleep. So
Hmm.
things are just postponed at the minute. But we have just finished filming the Geordie Shore reunion. There's
Yeah.
also a new one starting hopefully in the new year. I go to Colombia to film a new show as well in
Oh, wow.
February. Getting married in March. So there's a lot
Oh,
going
you've
on.
set a date.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. It is a
Yeah,
lot. Well,
it's
it
a lot.
was it was so good to catch up with you, and I don't want to take too much of your
Yeah,
time, but thank you, and we'll keep in touch and hopefully get another update.
definitely, definitely. It was so nice to catch up.
You too. Chat soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.